Hi, everyone. My name is Ayla Ashford. Yes, that Ashford. The kind of name people say softly, like it's expensive and might break if they speak too loud. The kind of family that has a foundation with our last name on it, and a private driver who knows 3 routes to every place because traffic is for normal people. I'm 21, in college, and I'm the middle child, which, in my house, is just a prettier way of saying the spare that didn't come with instructions. My older brother, Roman, wears suits like he was born in them. My younger sister, Dahlia, is the family's favorite investment. Perfect smile, perfect grades, perfect boyfriend, perfect everything. And then there's me. Not ugly, that's the funny part. I'm painfully not ugly. I'm the kind of pretty strangers stare at and then look away like they got caught stealing. The kind of pretty that makes women decide I'm arrogant before I even open my mouth. Long dark hair, soft mouth, eyes that look like I'm thinking something I'll never say out loud. My body is all quiet, curves and expensive posture. Years of learning to fold myself into smaller shapes at dinner tables where my opinion was never served. But being pretty didn't save me and my family. It just made my stepmother hate me with more creativity. Her name is Vivienne Ashford, and she's the reason our mansion smells like fresh lilies and quiet cruelty. She married my father after my mother died fast, clean and perfectly timed. She never hit me, never screamed, never left bruises. Vivienne was too classy for Marks. She did it in little ways, like buying Roman a matte black Range Rover for his graduation, and Dahlia a white G-Wagon with just a small bow, darling, then turning to me with a smile that could slice glass. Oh, Ayla, you're in college. You don't need distractions. Distractions. Like being treated like I existed. Our house is a literal museum. Marble stairs, an indoor pool that glows blue at night, a chandelier that looks like frozen rain, paintings worth more than my tuition, and yet I spent most of my childhood feeling like a guest who overstayed her welcome. Weekends were the worst. Ashford weekends are a performance. Breakfast served on the terrace, imported berries, croissants that flake like snow, coffee poured like ritual. Then the family would split off into their lives. Roman to golf with men who smell like money, Dahlia to brunch with girls who wear effortless outfits that cost a month's rent. Vivienne would host friends, women in silk, smiling too wide, talking about charity events and private auctions. And me? I would sit by the fountain and pretend I liked reading, because books are the only place where the middle child ever gets to be chosen. My father, Edmund Ashford, was there without being present. He'd kiss Vivienne's cheek, pat Roman's shoulder, praise Dahlia's achievements like he was reading a script. And when his eyes passed over me, they didn't stop. It wasn't hate. Hate would have meant effort. It was worse, indifference. I learned to survive by becoming 2 people. In public, I was polite, soft, graceful. The girl who said excuse me and thank you like it was oxygen. In private, I kept a list in my head. Not a revenge list. Not yet. Just a record of every moment I learned I was alone. The scholarship letter came in my first year of college, and I remember staring at it like it was proof the world had made a mistake, because for once something had chosen me. Not my family. Not my name. Not my money. Me. I started going to Westbridge University, a private campus that looks like it was built for movie scenes. Ivy-covered buildings. Expensive backpacks. Students who wear casual like they invented it. I blended in, and for the first time I could breathe. That's where I met Cameron Hale. My fiancé. God, even writing the word makes my mouth taste like metal. Cameron was the kind of handsome that makes girls think they're safe. Soft smile, warm eyes, perfect manners. He had future husband energy, the kind mothers adore because he looks like stability. He found me outside the campus cafe one rainy afternoon when my umbrella broke and my hair stuck to my face. You're going to catch a cold, he said, handing me his jacket. It smelled like expensive cologne and confidence. I should have walked away, but when you've spent your whole life starving, you will mistake any kindness for love. He sat with me, listened, asked about my major psychology, and didn't make a joke about it being useless. When I told him I was an Ashford, he didn't act impressed. That was the trap. He acted normal, and normal felt like salvation. Within months, Cameron was the first person to say, "I see you, Ayla." No one had ever said that to me like it meant something. When he proposed, it was at a private rooftop dinner, the kind with string lights and city skyline views. The ring was obscene, diamond so sharp it looked like it could cut a lie in half. Vivienne cried at the dinner table. Roman clapped. Dahlia squealed and hugged me so hard I almost believed it, and my father finally looked at me like I mattered. For the first time in my life, I should have known it wasn't about me. It was about how I made the family look. The wedding planning became a circus, designer dress fittings, venues with fountains, guest lists full of people who don't laugh loudly, weeks filled with white flowers and expensive decisions. And through it all, Vivienne acted like she was being generous. "We're doing this for you," she'd say, smiling sweetly, but her eyes always held the truth. "Don't embarrass us." Then it happened, the thing that finally made me stop begging for love. It was a Friday night, a family weekend event at one of our properties outside the city, an estate with a lake, a helipad and security gates like we were hiding from war. Vivienne hosted a party, champagne, jazz, people laughing like they didn't know how to be human. I was upstairs in a guest room looking for my earrings when Cameron's phone buzzed on the bed. I wasn't the type to snoop. I was the type to trust people who didn't deserve it. But the screen lit up with a name that froze my blood, Dahlia, and the message preview was just enough to ruin me. "Last night was worth it. Don't act like you didn't love it." My hands went cold. My throat tightened. I opened the message thread, and there it was. Weeks of it. Photos, plans, lies. My sister and my fiancé. In our house, in my life, in my face. The sound I made wasn't a scream. It was a quiet little breath, like my body finally understood what my soul had known since childhood. I was never anyone's favorite. Downstairs, the party music swelled. People laughed. Somewhere Vivienne was probably smiling. And in that moment I realized something terrifying. They didn't hurt me by accident. They hurt me because they knew I would swallow it. I walked out of that room like a ghost. I didn't cry. Not yet. I went down the grand staircase, past guests holding champagne flutes, past Roman talking loudly, past Vivienne standing in silk like a queen. I saw Cameron near the bar. He looked up and smiled, like nothing in the world was wrong, like my pain was just another accessory he could wear. I crossed the room slowly. He leaned in, soft voice. "Hey, beautiful, you okay?" And then finally I felt it. Not sadness, not heartbreak, something colder, something sharp, something that whispered, "You don't deserve my tears. You deserve consequences." I smiled back, perfect, polite, Ashford trained. "I'm fine," I said. Then I took my engagement ring off and placed it in his drink. The diamond hit the glass with a sound so small no one else heard it. But Cameron did. His smile faltered. "What? Ayla?" I leaned close enough for him to smell the calm on me. "You should have deleted your messages," I whispered, sweet as poison. His face went white. Across the room, Vivienne's gaze snapped to us like she felt the shift in the air. Dahlia turned too, lip gloss perfect, hair perfect, innocence painted on. And I realized something else. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a family tradition. I walked out of the party alone. No dramatic announcement, no scene, just my heels clicking against marble like a countdown. Outside, the night was cold and expensive, the kind where the stars look like they belong to someone else. My driver, Hassan, hurried toward me. "Miss Ayla, are you?" "I want to go back to campus," I said. He hesitated. "Your father?" I said, I repeated, voice calm. "Take me back." On the ride, my phone exploded with calls. Cameron, Dahlia, Roman. Vivienne didn't call. Vivienne never chased. She only watched people fall. I stared out the window as the city lights blurred into gold, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the middle child. I felt like a match. And something in the dark was about to learn what happens when you keep striking the same girl until she finally lights. Because that night, while my family was busy pretending I was replaceable, someone else noticed me. Someone who didn't care about my last name. Someone who didn't smile like a liar. Someone who, according to half the city, owned the night. I didn't know his name yet, but I'd hear it soon. And when I did, everything would change. I didn't go home. I went back to campus like a wounded animal that finally learned the woods were safer than the cage. Westbridge at night is all soft lighting and expensive silence, the kind of place where students pretend they're normal while wearing watches that could pay for a semester. The fountains keep running even when the world feels like it's ending. The ivy doesn't care if you've been humiliated. I walked across the courtyard with my coat pulled tight, my hair still smelling like smoke and champagne. My phone wouldn't stop, Cameron. "Ayla, please answer." "Dahlia, it wasn't what you think, Roman. You're embarrassing us, Vivienne." "Nothing." Of course, the one person who started most of my pain never needed to chase me. She knew I'd come back crawling, except I wasn't crawling, I was floating, not in a calm way. In a dissociated, my soul stepped out of my body and left my dignity to handle the rest kind of way. I got to my dorm room and locked the door like the world might break in. Then I sank to the floor and I finally cried. Not the pretty kind of tears you see in movies. Not the delicate mascara streak that makes a man regret what he did. This was ugly, silent, whole body. My throat hurt from holding it in for years. When I looked up, my mirror caught me. Ayla Ashford, soft mouth bitten raw. Eyes swollen, hair falling in waves like it didn't realize it belonged to someone heartbroken. Even destroyed, I looked expensive. It made me laugh once, sharp and bitter, because my family always wanted me polished, presentable, perfect. They just never wanted me happy. I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed and scrolled like a zombie, watching people live their normal lives. Couples posting pictures, friends tagging each other. A girl filming a day in my life like her biggest struggle was choosing between oat milk and almond. And then like a slap, a notification appeared. Westbridge Society Gala, Saturday. Invitation only. Of course it was Saturday. Of course it was a gala. My family loved weekends because weekends were where they performed their perfection for the world. I stared at the event post. Glittering chandeliers, tuxedos, dresses, champagne towers. And I realized something that made my breathing steady. If I stayed invisible, they'd bury me. If I disappeared quietly, they'd rewrite the story. They'd tell everyone I had a breakdown, that I was unstable, that Cameron was heartbroken, that Dahlia was misunderstood, that Vivienne was trying her best. They'd make me the villain for having the audacity to bleed. I wiped my face, stood up, and walked to the mirror. My eyes were still swollen, but underneath the hurt, there was something else, a new shape forming behind my pupils. A decision. I'm not letting you narrate my life anymore, I whispered at my reflection. Then I opened my closet, and I chose violence, not the illegal kind, the social kind, the kind that's quiet but fatal. Saturday night came like a loaded gun. I wore a black dress that made my body look like it was carved out of midnight. Simple, backless, dangerous. No jewelry except a thin chain at my throat. My makeup was clean, sharp. My hair fell in glossy waves like I was born with a spotlight. I didn't look like a victim. I looked like a warning. When I walked into the gala, the air shifted. Westbridge events always had a certain energy. Too much money, too many smiles, too many people pretending they weren't scared of being unimportant. But the moment I arrived, people turned. Not because of my last name, because of my face. Because heartbreak makes women either disappear or become art. And tonight, I was art. The whispers started immediately. Ashford, that's her. That's the one who. Wait, she's stunning. I walked like I belonged there. Like I hadn't cried on a dorm floor 3 days ago. And that was the first revenge, the first crack in their control. I saw Cameron across the room, laughing too loudly with his friends, trying to look unbothered. His eyes found me, and his smile froze, like his brain couldn't process how I looked intact. Then I saw Dahlia. She was in white. Of course she was. My sister loved wearing innocence like a costume. Her eyes locked on mine and widened just slightly like she expected me to be messy, like she expected me to ruin myself the way she ruined me. Behind her stood Roman, smug and sharp in a tailored suit, and beside Roman, Vivienne, the stepmother queen. Her gaze slid over me, evaluating, searching for weakness, a crack, a tremble. I gave her none. I smiled once, small, polite, deadly. Her mouth tightened. Good. Let her feel it. Then I turned away, not running, not confronting, just dismissing them. Because nothing hurts a narcissist like being treated like background noise. I moved deeper into the crowd, accepting greetings from people who never spoke to me before. I caught fragments of conversation. She's not crying. Did you see Cameron's face? Something's off. And then I felt it. That sensation women talk about in group chats. Someone is staring. Not casual, not admiring, not even lust. This was something heavier. I turned slowly and saw him. He wasn't dressed like the Westbridge boys. Not preppy, not trying, not thirsty. He was in a dark suit that fit like a threat. No flashy logo, no bright colors, just clean power. He stood near the back of the room, half-shadowed, like he wasn't here to socialize, he was here to observe. His presence made the air feel colder, like the room had to behave better because he existed in it. He looked at me the way people look at a painting they want to steal. Not hungry, possessive. His eyes, dark, focused, moved over me like he was memorizing details. And when our gaze met, something in my chest tightened. Not fear, recognition. The kind your body has before your mind catches up. He started walking toward me. The crowd parted without thinking, like everyone knew not to block him. When he stopped in front of me, he didn't smile like a boy trying to charm a girl. He smiled like a man who already owned the outcome. Ayla Ashford, he said, voice low. My stomach flipped. I didn't know him, but he knew me. Do I know you? I asked, calm as I could manage. His eyes dipped to my lips for half a second, then back up. You don't, he said, but the city does. That was a ridiculous line, and somehow it sounded true. I lifted my chin, and you are. He leaned slightly closer, not invading, just enough to make my senses sharpen. Zane Moretti. The name hit the air like a door locking. I knew it. Everyone knew it. Moretti wasn't just money. Moretti was influence, control. The kind of family people pretended wasn't real until they needed something. The kind of name whispered at night with fear and fascination. The kind of man my stepmother would warn me about, while secretly wanting an invitation to his world. I kept my face neutral. Why are you here? Zane's gaze didn't break. Because I saw you walk in. That's not an answer. It is, he said simply. I hated how my body reacted, how my pulse jumped, how my skin warmed under his stare. He looked dangerous in a way that wasn't loud. His hands were clean, his hair perfectly styled, his jawline sharp enough to cut an apology in half. He didn't look like a criminal. He looked like the reason criminals behaved. Your family is watching you, he said, eyes sliding briefly past me. I didn't turn to look. I know, Zane's voice lowered further. Your fiancé is sweating. I blinked once. X. That word tasted like steel. Zane's attention snapped back to me, something like approval flickering in his eyes. Good, he said. I don't like sharing, my breath caught. That was bold, insane, even, but he said it like it wasn't flirtation, like it was a fact. I gave a small, controlled smile. You don't even know me. He tilted his head slightly, studying me like a puzzle he already solved. I know enough, he murmured. A girl doesn't look like that after betrayal unless she's either going to break or become something sharp. His gaze traveled, my hair, my cheekbone, the curve of my back, slow, deliberate, like he was praising the art without touching it. You're beautiful, he said quietly, not in a soft way, in a way that makes people feel unsafe. My throat went dry. No one had ever spoken about my beauty like it was power. They spoke about it like it was decoration. And Zane? He spoke like it was a weapon. I swallowed. You talk like you think you can read people. I don't think, he said. I know. I should have walked away. I should have said, no thank you, Mafia Prince. But my whole life I'd been controlled by people who smiled sweetly while starving me. And here was a man who didn't pretend to be sweet. He was honest about the darkness, which felt safer. Why are you interested? I asked, voice steady. Zane's eyes softened a fraction, like the question entertained him. Because, he said, I've watched your family treat you like you're disposable. My spine stiffened. How? I notice things, he cut in, calm, and I don't like it when someone hurts what I find rare. My heart thudded. He leaned in just enough that only I could hear his next words. You don't have to beg for love, Ayla, he said. Not anymore. My chest tightened painfully. I almost laughed, because if anyone else said that, it would have sounded like cheap comfort. But coming from him, it sounded like a promise. Across the room, I saw Cameron staring at us now, his face tight. Dahlia's smile had vanished completely. Vivienne stood still as stone, and for the first time in my life, my family looked uncertain. Zane followed my gaze without turning his head. They're scared, he murmured. I forced a calm breath. They should be? His eyes flashed, dark and satisfied. They will be, he said. Then he offered his hand, not like a boy asking for a dance, like a man offering a door out of hell. Come, Zane said. Let them watch you choose a different world. My fingers hovered for half a second. Then I placed my hand in his. His grip was warm and firm, possession without force. And when he led me onto the dance floor, the room went silent in that way wealthy rooms do when something expensive is happening. Zane's hand settled at my waist like it belonged there. He leaned down, voice like velvet over a blade. You're going to be adored, he said, and they're going to hate it. I looked up at him, my lips almost brushing his jaw as I spoke. And what do you get out of this, Zane Moretti? His eyes locked onto mine, slow, hungry, controlled. You, he said. One word, no poetry, no begging, just ownership. And somewhere behind us, I felt my stepmother's world begin to crack, because the middle child they forgot had just been chosen by the man who owned the city. The thing about power is, you feel it before you understand it. I felt it the second Zane Moretti led me off that dance floor. Not because everyone stared, because everyone moved. People didn't make room like normal crowds do. They cleared, like the air itself knew where he was going, and got out of the way first. I'd grown up around money. Old money. Ashford money. But Ashford money was polite. It asked. It negotiated. It hosted. Zane's power didn't ask. It simply arrived. As we walked through the ballroom, I caught pieces of faces. Half smiles, quiet panic, sudden respect. Someone tried to approach him, a man in a tux with desperate eyes. Zane didn't even turn. One of Zane's men, tall, stone-faced, stepped in front of the guy like a wall that learned how to breathe. The man swallowed his words and backed away. My skin prickled. Zane glanced down at me like he could sense the change in my heartbeat. "You're thinking too loudly," he murmured. I forced my voice steady. "I didn't know people reacted like that to you." His mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "They're not reacting to me," he said. "They're reacting to what happens when people disappoint me." That should have terrified me. It did. But it also did something worse. It made me feel safe in a way I'd never experienced. Like for once the monster wasn't aimed at me. Outside, the night air was cold and crisp. The kind of cold that makes expensive perfume smell sharper. A car waited near the curb. Not just a car. A matte black Rolls-Royce that looked like it ate light. Dark windows, clean lines, quiet menace. And it wasn't parked like it was asking permission. It was positioned like it owned the street. The driver opened the door without a word. Zane didn't ask if I wanted to leave. He didn't say, "Are you comfortable?" He simply held out his hand again. And I realized this was his entire energy, not force, certainty. I slid into the back seat, leather so soft it felt like it had never been touched by stress. The smell inside was rich wood, spice, something dark and expensive. Zane got in beside me, close enough that my arm almost brushed his. The door shut with a sound like finality. As the car pulled away, my phone buzzed again. Cameron, Roman. Then, finally, Father. My stomach twisted. Zane watched my screen light up. His expression didn't change. "Ashford's," he said, like it was a diagnosis. I didn't answer the calls. I stared at the city passing by, lights smeared into gold through tinted glass. Zane leaned back, relaxed like the world was background noise. "Where are we going?" I asked. He looked at me, slow and steady. "Somewhere your family can't reach you," he said, "and somewhere they'll hate imagining you." Heat rose to my cheeks. He was ridiculous, dangerous, and the way he said it made my lungs forget how to work for half a second. The car turned into a private driveway, gates opening like they'd been waiting. A building rose ahead, towering glass and steel, the top floors disappearing into the night. A doorman didn't greet us with a smile. He nodded like a soldier. The elevator didn't stop on a public floor. It went up high, silent, until the doors opened into a penthouse that looked like a dream, designed by someone who never had to compromise. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a living room the size of our dining hall at the mansion, a bar set into black marble, art on the walls that didn't try to be pretty, it tried to be valuable. The city sprawled below like it belonged to him. Zane loosened his cufflinks with calm hands. "You live here?" I asked, voice almost too small in the space. "I stay here," he corrected. "Home is complicated." That sounded familiar in a way that made my throat tighten. He walked toward the windows, one hand in his pocket, and for a second he looked like he was wearing the city like a crown. Then he turned to me, and the way he looked at me made my stomach flip harder than the height ever could, not like a rich boy admiring a pretty girl, like a man who found something rare and decided it wouldn't be stolen. "You're shaking," he said quietly. I blinked. I hadn't noticed. "It's been a night," I said. He took a step closer, then another. He stopped just in front of me, not touching, but close enough that his warmth reached my skin. "Your family trained you to shrink," he said, "even when you're bleeding." My breath hitched. "Don't talk like you know me," I whispered, even though my voice betrayed me. Zane's gaze dropped to my mouth again, slow and deliberate, like he was memorizing the exact shape of my defiance. "I know pain," he said, "and I know what you are." I swallowed. "And what am I?" His eyes lifted back to mine. "A beautiful problem," he murmured, "and I like problems that bite." My pulse went loud. It was insane how quickly he got under my skin, how his attention felt like a spotlight and a blade at the same time. I forced myself to step back, just slightly. "Why me?" Zane's jaw tightened like the question was almost offensive. "Because they threw you away," he said, "and you still walked in there like a goddess." My chest squeezed. No one had ever called me that, not in a way that felt true. He reached out then, two fingers lifting a strand of my hair like it was silk. The touch was barely there, but my whole body reacted like it was a claim. "You don't even realize what you do to a room," he said softly. "You don't enter, Ayla. You change the temperature." I exhaled shakily, trying not to let him see how much that affected me. But he already saw everything. "That dress," he continued, voice low. "That face. Those eyes like you're always thinking about something cruel." "I'm not cruel," I said, Zane's mouth curved, darkly amused. "Not yet," he replied. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message. "Father, come home. Now, you've made your point." I stared at it until the words blurred. Made my point. Like my humiliation had been an inconvenience. Like betrayal was a social mistake I was expected to forgive. Zane watched my expression shift. "What did he say?" he asked. I showed him the screen. Zane read it once. Then he smiled. Not with humor, with something colder. "Good," he said. I frowned. "Good. He thinks you're still a child he can summon," Zane said calmly. "Let him keep thinking that." He walked to the bar, poured something amber into a glass, then poured a second clear sparkling into a short crystal cup and brought it to me. I took it automatically. My fingers shook slightly against the cold glass. "What is this?" I asked. "Water," he said. "You need it." The fact he noticed that made something inside me soften against my will. I drank. Zane leaned against the marble counter, watching me like I was the only real thing in the room. "You're not going back tonight," he said. It wasn't a suggestion. My spine stiffened. "And if I want to?" Zane's eyes sharpened, dangerously calm. "Then I'll take you," he said, "and I'll stand beside you while you look them in the eye." I held his gaze. "You make it sound like you're my bodyguard." He laughed once, low. "I'm not anyone's guard," he said. "I'm the reason people need them." My throat went dry. Somewhere deep down, a sensible part of me screamed that this was insane. A mafia king in a penthouse talking like he could rewrite my life. But then I remembered the ballroom, Cameron's face, Dahlia's panic, Vivienne's stillness, and I realized something that made my hands stop shaking. For the first time, I had leverage. Zane pushed off the counter and came close again. "I don't want you scared of me," he said, voice quieter now. "I want you honest," my breath caught. "How honest?" I whispered. His gaze flicked to my lips again. Then he lowered his voice to something that felt like a confession and a threat at once. "Tell me what you want," he said. "Not what they trained you to accept." My chest rose and fell too fast. What did I want? I wanted to not feel disposable. I wanted my family to look at me and realize they miscalculated. I wanted Cameron to choke on his confidence. I wanted Dahlia to learn that stealing from me had a price. And I wanted, God help me, I wanted Zane's attention to be real, not another trap. I lifted my chin. "I want them to regret it," I said, voice steady. Zane's eyes darkened. "Good," he murmured. Then he reached out, thumb brushing lightly over my wrist, where my pulse jumped like it was trying to escape. "We'll do it clean," he said. "We'll do it quietly." He leaned closer, his breath warm near my ear. "And they will still feel it everywhere." My body went still, like my instincts recognized the danger and the safety at the same time. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't my father. It was a notification, a tagged post, a picture from the gala. Cameron, smiling beside Dahlia, captioned, "Real love always wins." My vision went white for a second. I stared at the screen, stunned by the audacity. Zane looked over my shoulder and saw it. The penthouse went colder. He didn't speak for a long moment, then, softly, "He wants to humiliate you publicly," Zane said. My voice came out small, and I hated that it did. "Yes." Zane took the phone from my hand with smooth control, like he was removing something sharp from a child. He set it face down on the counter. Then he looked at me, eyes steady, voice calm. "Okay," he said, "then we respond publicly." My heart slammed. "How?" Zane's mouth curved slightly. "Dangerous, confident. We don't fight like them," he murmured. "We end it like us." He stepped closer, and his hand rose, 2 fingers tipping my chin up gently. "You're going to post 1 photo," he said, "and it's going to erase their confidence in a single second." My breath shook. "A photo of what?" Zane's eyes held mine. "A photo that makes the city understand," he said slowly, "that you're no longer theirs to break." And the scariest part? I believed him. Because Zane Moretti didn't make promises. He made outcomes. I didn't expect silence to be so loud. The penthouse felt like it was holding its breath with me. City lights flickering beneath glass walls, the hum of power somewhere deep in the building. Zane stood by the window, phone in his hand, posture relaxed like this wasn't his first time deciding someone's fate with a single move. He turned to me slowly. "Sit," he said. Not commanding, grounding. I lowered myself onto the edge of the couch, my spine straight like I was bracing for impact. My phone lay on the marble counter, face down. Cameron's post burned behind my eyes. Real love always wins. I'd spent my whole life losing to love, shaped like conditions. Zane tapped his screen once. Your family already called an emergency meeting, he said calmly. My heart skipped. What? He glanced at me. Your stepmother hates public uncertainty. She panics when she doesn't control the narrative. Of course she does. Vivienne didn't fear scandal. She feared not knowing. Zane walked over, crouched in front of me, his presence pulling my attention like gravity. Before we do this, he said, quieter now, I need you clear. I nodded. What happens next, he continued, changes how people see you forever. There's no deleting this. I laughed once, bitter. They already see me as disposable. Zane's jaw tightened. Not after tonight. He held up his phone, turning the screen toward me. It was a photo. Not taken yet. A live camera view. The city behind him. The penthouse lights dimmed, just enough to turn the windows into black mirrors. Zane stepped beside me. Stand, he said. I did. He adjusted my posture gently, fingers barely grazing my waist, my shoulder like he was arranging something precious. You're beautiful, he said quietly. Don't soften it. I lifted my chin. Good, he murmured. Then he pulled me closer, not intimate, not romantic, intentional. His arm settled around my back like it had always belonged there. Not possession, alignment, smile, Zane said. I didn't. I looked calm, whole, untouchable. The camera caught us reflected against the city, me in black silk and sharp eyes, Zane in shadow and confidence, the lights of the city beneath us like proof. Click. He looked at the photo once, then he handed the phone to me. This is yours to post, he said. Your voice, your timing. My fingers trembled as I took it. What do I write? I asked. Zane's eyes locked on mine. Nothing emotional, he said. Nothing explanatory. Power never explains itself. I swallowed. Then I typed, I'm good. Please stop worrying. Nothing else. I posted it. And the world cracked. Notifications exploded instantly. Likes climbing like a glitch. Tags, mentions, screenshots already circulating. Within minutes, my phone rang. Father. I didn't answer. Then another call. Roman. Ignored. Then, Vivienne. I stared at her name, breathing steady. Zane watched me, unreadable. I answered. Ayla, Vivienne said, too sweet, too controlled. Where are you? Her voice didn't shake, but I knew her. I smiled softly. I'm out. With whom? She pressed. Zane lifted a brow slightly. I glanced at him, then back at the window. With someone who wanted me, I said. Silence on the line. Ayla, Vivienne said carefully. You're being impulsive. People are calling me. This is inappropriate. I let out a small laugh. No, I said. What's inappropriate is my sister sleeping with my fiancé. Her breath caught. She recovered fast. That's a misunderstanding. Is it? I asked, because the city seems to understand just fine. Another pause, then the mask cracked. You're humiliating your family, Vivienne hissed. Delete the post. I leaned back against the counter. No, I said calmly. Her voice sharpened. You think this man, this Moretti, is protecting you. He's using you. I glanced at Zane. He didn't react. I don't care. I said simply. Vivienne inhaled sharply. Ayla, you don't belong in his world. I smiled. Neither do you, I replied, and hung up. My heart pounded, but not from fear, from relief. Zane's mouth curved slightly. You did well, he said. Seconds later, my phone buzzed again. This time, a text. Cameron, we need to talk, please. This is getting out of hand. I stared at it. The audacity. Zane saw it and held out his hand. Give it, he said. I hesitated. Then I placed the phone in his palm. Zane typed one message. No emojis, no insults, just, she's unavailable. Then he blocked Cameron's number. My chest tightened. That was it? Years of history, gone. With one sentence. Then another notification appeared. An incoming call to Zane's phone. He answered it calmly. Yes, he said. Pause. No, he said again, softer this time. He looked at me. He continued. I'm aware. Another pause. Then tell him, Zane said, voice turning cold, that humiliating the woman I'm with publicly was a mistake. He ended the call. I looked at him, heart racing. Who was that? One of Cameron's investors, Zane replied. Former investor, actually. My breath caught. You didn't. Zane met my gaze. I did. My phone buzzed violently now, a new post. Not Cameron. Dahlia, a story. black screen, white text. Please don't believe everything you see online. I love my sister. I laughed. A real laugh this time. She's panicking, I said. Zane nodded, desperately. What about my father? I asked. Zane's eyes darkened slightly. He just found out who I am. Right on cue, my phone rang again. Father, this time, I answered. Ayla, he said sharply, dropping all pretense, where the hell are you? I glanced around the penthouse, the glass, the city, the man beside me. I'm safe, I said. That's not what I asked. I know. Ayla, he said, lowering his voice. You need to come home. Now. Zane leaned closer, close enough that his presence steadied me. I spoke clearly. No, I said. There it was. The word I'd never been allowed to use. Silence stretched. Then Edmund Ashford spoke again. Careful this time. Who are you with? I didn't hesitate. Zane Moretti. The silence this time was different, heavy, almost respectful. I see, my father said slowly. Do you? I hope you do, I replied, because you won't get another chance, and for once, I didn't explain. I ended the call. I exhaled shakily. Zane turned toward me, his expression unreadable. You okay? He asked. I nodded, then something inside me snapped free. Years of restraint, years of being quiet. I want to see them apologize, I said softly. Zane's eyes held mine. They will, he said. How? I asked. He stepped closer, voice dropping. Tomorrow, he said, your family hosts a charity brunch. I stiffened. Yes. They invited me, Zane continued, 10 minutes ago. My heart slammed. They wouldn't. They did, he said, because they think proximity is control. A dark smile touched his lips. They forget, Zane added. I don't attend events without rearranging the power structure. He reached out, tilting my chin gently upward. Tomorrow, he said, they'll look at you differently. How? I whispered. Zane's gaze burned into me. They won't apologize because you're their daughter, he said. They'll apologize because they're afraid of the man standing beside you. My pulse thundered. Is that what this is? I asked. Fear? Zane leaned down until his forehead rested lightly against mine. This, he murmured, is respect born too late. The city glowed beneath us, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't begging. I wasn't surviving. I was being chosen, and tomorrow they would all kneel in their own way, because the middle child they ignored had just become someone dangerous to underestimate. The brunch was scheduled for 11. By 10:45, my family was already pretending nothing was wrong. That's how the Ashfords survived storms, by acting like the roof was never leaking. White tents filled the back garden of the estate, crystal glasses, linen tablecloths. A jazz trio playing softly like grief dressed up as entertainment, women in pastel dresses, laughing too loud, men in tailored jackets, pretending they didn't check their phones every 30 seconds. This event had been planned for months, but the tension, that was new. I arrived at 10:58, not alone, never invisible again. The car rolled through the gates slowly, another matte black statement, low and silent, flanked by two vehicles that moved like trained shadows. The tires stopped on crushed gravel. Conversation died mid-sentence. I stepped out first, black dress again, simpler this time, cleaner, sharper, hair down, face calm, heart steady. Then Zane stepped out behind me, and the garden felt smaller. Power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just makes people straighten their backs instinctively. The jazz stopped. Someone dropped a glass. Vivienne froze near the head table, her champagne flute halfway to her lips. My father stood abruptly, his face pale beneath practiced composure. Roman stiffened. Dahlia looked like she'd just seen a ghost that knew her secrets. Zane didn't look at them. He looked at me, a subtle gesture of permission. I took my first step forward, then another, and I felt it, something I'd never felt here before. Control. We walked through the garden like it belonged to us. People moved. Chairs scraped. Smiles disappeared. Whispers followed in waves. Zane's hand rested lightly at my lower back, not possessive. Protective. Not because I needed it, but because they did. Vivienne recovered first. She always did. Ayla, she said brightly, stepping forward. Darling, I didn't know you were coming. I smiled. I didn't RSVP, I replied. I didn't think I needed permission. Her eyes flicked once to Zane, then back to me. The fear she tried to swallow tasted metallic in the air. This is a private event, she said carefully. Zane finally spoke. His voice wasn't loud. That was the worst part. So is my patience, he said calmly. The silence that followed was immediate and total. My father cleared his throat. "Mr. Moretti," he said, "we appreciate your presence. Perhaps we should talk privately." Zane tilted his head slightly, considering. Then he looked down at me. "Do you want to?" he asked. That one sentence did more damage than shouting ever could, because for the first time in my life, they watched someone ask me what I wanted. I studied their faces, Roman, tense and calculating, Vivienne, smiling too hard, Dahlia, pale and panicked, clutching her purse like it could save her. My father, unsure. I shook my head gently. "No," I said, "I want to talk here." A ripple of unease spread through the crowd. Vivienne's smile faltered. "Ayla, please." "No," I said again, calm but final. "You've spoken for me my entire life. Today you'll listen." Her mouth tightened. I turned my gaze to Dahlia. My sister flinched. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I didn't explain. "I saw your post," I said quietly. "The one where you said you loved me." Dahlia swallowed hard. "Ayla, you can stop," I said gently. Lying is exhausting. Her eyes filled with tears. Whether real or tactical, I didn't care. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never meant for you meant it," I interrupted softly. "You just didn't think I'd survive it." Her lips trembled. Around us, phones were already out. No one stopped them. Zane didn't. My father stepped forward. "Ayla," he said, his voice strangely uncertain. "You know your sister didn't intend to—" I turned to him, and it was the first time in my life I saw fear behind his authority. "You let it happen," I said. "That's worse." His mouth opened, then closed. Vivienne cut in sharply. "You're being dramatic." Zane's hand tightened slightly at my back. That word, dramatic, was her favorite weapon. I laughed quietly. "You forgot something, Vivienne," I said. "Oh," she replied tightly. "I'm not asking to be understood anymore." Her eyes flashed. "You think this man makes you untouchable?" Zane smiled. Not wide, not cruel, just enough. "She's always been untouchable," he said. "You were just careless with what wasn't yours." Vivienne's breath hitched. My father exhaled slowly. "Ayla," he said, "if we hurt you—" "If," I repeated. He stopped. And then, something incredible happened. Vivienne looked at me, really looked, and her voice changed. "I'm sorry," she said. The words landed flat. Not regret. Damage control. "I'm sorry if you felt neglected," she continued. "We did the best we could." I tilted my head. "That's the apology?" I asked, but as it sounds like you forgiving yourself. A murmur passed through the crowd. Zane said nothing. He didn't need to. The silence surrounding him was louder than any threat. Roman finally spoke. "We didn't realize you were hurting," he said. "You never said anything." I met his gaze. "You never listened." That ended it. My father stepped forward again, this time slower, heavier. "Ayla," he said quietly, "I failed you." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because they healed me, because they came too late. "I know," I said calmly. His shoulders sagged slightly. "What can we do?" he asked. I looked around the garden at the wealth, the performance, the smiles fraying at the edges. And then I looked at Zane. He watched me with something unreadable in his eyes, not control. Pride. I turned back to my family. "Nothing," I said. "That's the point." The air felt thin. "I didn't come for apologies," I continued. "I came so you could see me leave." Vivienne's face went white. "You can't just walk away from your family," she snapped. Zane finally stepped forward fully then. The crowd shifted instinctively. "She can," he said calmly, and she just did. He placed his jacket over my shoulders, deliberate and unmistakable. "Not ownership, declaration. This city knows who she stands with now," Zane continued, "and anyone who disrespects her, disrespects me." No raised voice, no threats, just reality delivered clean. My family understood. I felt it in the way Roman swallowed, in the way Dahlia's shoulders collapsed, in the way Vivienne finally stopped smiling. My father nodded once. A concession, an ending. I turned away. Not angrily, not triumphantly, just finished. Zane walked beside me as we left the garden. No one tried to stop us. As we reached the car, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from my father. "I hope one day you forgive us." I stared at it. Then I looked up at the city beyond the gates, and I typed back, "I hope one day you understand that forgiveness isn't access." I put the phone away. Zane opened the door for me, his hand brushing mine, as I slid in. As the car pulled away, I looked back once. The mansion stood tall, untouched, cold, exactly as it always had, except now, it felt small. Zane glanced at me. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I nodded. More than okay. I reached over and laced my fingers through his, this time by choice. I used to think being loved meant being tolerated, I said softly. He lifted our joined hands, pressing a kiss to my knuckles, slow, reverent. You were never made to be tolerated, he replied. You were made to be feared. I smiled, not sweetly. Honestly, and as the city lights swallowed us whole, I told myself the truth for the first time. I wasn't the middle child anymore. I wasn't the forgotten one. I wasn't the girl they broke and discarded. I was the woman who walked away with the man who owned the night. And everyone who ever hurt me, they didn't lose me. They lost access. The end. Thanks for watching. If you want more heart-touching stories, please hit a subscribe button and share this video with your friends and family.